Hello and thank you for joining us. This is episode 27 of Well Played, Good Games' only show on ABC iView about esports and the nerds who play them. Today on the show, we're joined by the president of Sydney Collegiate StarCraft to do a wrap-up of the WCS Finals, but first, it was a massive weekend at Blizzcon, so let's take a look at the news. And we start with CSGO news. Swedish pro outfit Ninjas in Pyjamas have announced a surprise reshuffle of their organisation, including the resignation of CEO Per Lillefelt. Following on from revelations in Breitbart.com that the team owes its players thousands of dollars in unpaid prize money and in-game merchandising, the company released a statement detailing the changes, saying, Per Lillefelt will part ways with Ninjas in Pyjamas and leave his position as CEO with immediate action. We thank Per for his work during his time at Ninjas in Pyjamas Gaming AB. And in Dota 2 news, visa problems have forced Invictus Gaming from attending the upcoming Frankfurt Major, which kicks off next week. IG were unable to secure a passport for Su Super Peng and did not have a Valve-registered substitute, so will be replaced by fellow Chinese team Newbie Young, despite having qualified for the Major. Newbie Young will compete alongside Team Newbie for a share in the $2 million US prize pool. And in stark contrast to the ridiculous Dota money, in fighting game news, Armada has taken home $11,525 US after winning Smash Summit, which is the biggest prize in Melee history.
Senior champion Armada. No one could see this coming.
Congratulations to Armada. And to start off our BlizzCon roundup, for the first time ever, we have a Heroes of the Storm World Champion. The global finals of the inaugural HWC were held over the weekend at BlizzCon in Anaheim, California. Korean heavyweights and tournament favourites Team DK went out 2-0 in the semis to North Americans Cloud9, who showcased a murky Abathur composition on Cursed Hollow in Game 2 that no one was expecting. The Koreans dominated the early game, but with a resilient / characteristically annoying Murky and the omnipresent Abathur soaking lanes during teamfights, the North Americans staged a late comeback and moved on to the finals, where they would face Europeans Team Dignitas. Having already beat the Europeans 2-1 in the group stages, Cloud9 continued their form, opening confidently on the first map, Dragonshire. They took first blood and had a 2-level lead 11 minutes into the game. The Americans consolidated their position and built to a 20-17 level advantage 14 minutes in, pushing the core and taking a very standard victory. The second game on Cursed Hollow was much closer. It was a mostly even game until about 22 minutes in, when a mistake by Dignitas' Abathur led to 2 more kills by Cloud9 and allowed them to rush the core soon after, taking a 2-0 lead in the series.
Cloud9 sitting 1 game away.
On Garden of Terror in Game 3, Team Dignitas took an early lead and summoned the first Garden Terror, which took out a Cloud9 fort. However, Cloud9's Sonya was able to take down a fort herself during the push to keep the game even. Split pushing with Abathur, Cloud9 were able to maintain pressure on all lanes and made use of camps to suffocate their opponents out, taking the series 3-0 and the $200,000 US first place check to become the world's first Heroes of the Storm champions.
Champions Cloud9.
And staying at BlizzCon, the Hearthstone World Championships were also decided. Root Gaming's Dylan Hotform Mullins from Canada faced off against Navi's Sebastian Ostkaka Engvall from Sweden in the best of 5. Ostkaka came into the tournament as something of a favourite despite struggling to find consistent results at major tournaments. He and Hotform had already met in the group stages where Ostkaka had claimed victory 2-1 earlier in the week.
Kaka goes to the round of 8 and wins Group C.
The Conquest format requires players to win with each of their 3 decks. Game 1 saw Ostkaka's mage burn down Hotform's own mage and was an impressive start for the Swede. In Game 2, Ostkaka brought out his Grim Patron Warrior deck, which had seen good results at BlizzCon despite the nerf to what was the card's chief combo companion, Warsong Commander. Eventually, Ostkaka got Grommash Hellscream onto the board and enraged by Death's Bite, he dealt lethal damage to the Canadian. In Game 3, Ostkaka took an early lead with Violet Teacher, which spawned a board full of 1-1 apprentices and proved insurmountable. Ostkaka took the championship and was awarded $100,000 US for his troubles.
This is your moment, Ostkaka. Congratulations.
BlizzCon also saw the crowning of the 2015 StarCraft World Champion. The WCS final saw last year's winner, Korean Zerg Lee Seon-hyun, aka Life, face off against 2013's champion, Korean Protoss Kim Yoo-jin, aka SOS, in the final major Heart of the Swarm tournament, before Legacy of the Void's release this week. The back and forth series was characterized by Life's consistent early aggression and SOS scrappily trying to hold off the Swarm, eventually taking the best of 7 series 4-3 and ending this chapter of StarCraft history at the top.
He did it!
Joining us right now to do a full roundup of WCS and the Grand Final series is President of Sydney Collegiate StarCraft and a WCS ANZ caster, Ellison Infurneaux. Thank you so much for joining us, Infurneaux.
Thanks very much for having me.
You and I were stuck in a bar.
I wouldn't say stuck in a bar.
On a Sunday morning watching StarCraft, having a fundamentally brilliant time. Tell us a bit about Life and SOS, our 2 Grand Finalists.
Being like fairly different in terms of style, but SOS has always managed to turn up when it counts. Like, there's a reason why he's got $0 as his nickname. He did win the WCS 2013, and he's kind of one of those players where he doesn't actually do too much during the year, and then suddenly when there's these kind of like big money matches, it's like, hey, Live, you want to play for money match? He just turns up and wins it all. And
yeah, he's like motivated by greed and money, right?
Greed is good, right? Greed is good. And he just, for some reason, he's just able to have incredible composure at the highest level. Like, he just doesn't seem to get nervous or whatever. And only once he won it did you actually see any kind of emotion. Before that, win a game, lose a game, just drink water, drink nerd tears, all right, move on. Whereas Life is still a young player. You know, he started when he was 15. Yeah. He's only 19 now, but he's kind of been one of those players where he's just innately good at the game. Like, he's just got this kind of, similar to MC Minchul, also known as Boss Toss, they've got this kind of game sense where they can just hit the switch at any point and they'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to win this game right now. And everyone's like, well, how did he do that? You know, what made it go? And that kind of came into game 7 as well. He hit the switch. Life's like, I'm going to try and win this game. I'm going to do it right now. But SOS held his composure and won it. So.
Yeah. So what were your highlights of the Grand Final series?
I mean, the whole thing was, it was an organizer's dream. 4-3 finals is everything that you can wish for. And just like the back and forth nature of it is that, you know, each player gets one game. It is the contest that really makes it exciting. So I think Game 7 was the highlight for me because it was, you know, the final fell swoop of SOS against Life for that grand final. And at the beginning of the game, it was on Iron Fortress, and Life had seen what SOS was doing as a forge first on the low ground. Generally means that they're going to play somewhat passive and go for an economy-based play. But Life was like, he could have taken 2 bases and kind of gone 3 base versus 2 base. As a general rule of thumb, Zerg really wants to be one base up again. Yeah, exactly, ahead of Protoss. But instead he said, you know what? I want that money now. You know, I want that fame, I want that glory now. And so he went from the 1 base, total aggression, Lings, lots of Banelings, tried to crash down the front, but there was like, the best thing about the game is there was actually one little MVP, and it was the probe on the watchtower that saw everything. Because Life didn't even realize that SOS had vision of what was happening, and as soon as he saw another set of Lings and then one more set of Lings, he knew something was up, gave him time to prepare, and he executed the hold perfectly.
I'm interested in your opinion. When do you think Life knew he'd lost? Because he stayed in that game for a very long time.
He was behind, but he didn't lose. I mean, that build it's meant to either kill your opponent or completely cripple them. And the problem was that he didn't do any economic damage, like you said. So I think because he killed the Nexus and a lot of the buildings, he wasn't out of the game just yet. You know, SOS could still make a mistake. And I mean, when you're playing for that much money and that much pride, you just don't leave the game. You never leave. You don't do an Hydra. You don't.
You don't rage quit.
You don't rage quit against MMA, who destroyed his own command center. You don't do that. You don't do that. You don't leave when you see hallucinations. You do stay into the game because anything can happen. But I think he knew he was behind. And then when he lost all those drones to the Oracle after, it was. Yeah. But you just don't leave. Like, you don't leave because.
Who knows what could happen?
Maybe they AWOC, you know? Yeah. Maybe they have a heart attack in the booth. Who knows? Like, maybe...
Mate, we can all hope. We can all dream that our opponent has a fatal heart attack.
There's a reason why Life finds a way, you know?
I was particularly enthralled by just watching the skill of these players. I mean, every time I watch just pro players just dominating these games, it's incredible to watch. In particular, I think it was game 5, maybe, where SOS did a DT rush, and you saw these DTs taking down a hatchery while an Overlord was morphing, while surrounded by Zerglings. You thought they were going to be killed as soon as the Overlord spawned, but he just managed to like get a bunch of them into the war prism and away, and I was just like, man,
Yeah.
I can't do that. Like, I don't have those skills.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the beauty of being able to watch it as well. When you've played the game, you've got a heightened appreciation for just how good these players are. Just like if you were watching, you know, a sport or a game, you know, if you play tennis and you watch Roger Federer play, you know how good he is. It's very much the same kind of analogy for StarCraft. When you play and you're not nearly as good as these players, when you see them execute something so flawlessly and so beautifully, it's what makes it really exciting as well. That it is possible. You can do that. Hey, oh wow, you know, you don't have to lose that early. Okay.
Broadening out to general BlizzCon talk, what were your highlights of the whole sort of WS road?
Well, I liked Innovation versus Life. I think that was kind of the clash of styles. Innovation, his nickname is known as the Robot, and he's kind of like very much the person who just executes the build, but he does it so flawlessly.
He's like a build order optimizer.
He
that
is.
Has been kind of
He
just
is.
planted into a young Korean man.
Well, he's just like zero emotion as well. He's
Yeah.
like, I was super nervous when I was in this. And everyone's like, and then the commentators even like, I don't know what he thinks nerves are, but these are not nerves. Because he's just like, wow, I'm so nervous, right? But, you know, he has the ultimate composure with it. And he's just, I execute the build order, I win. I'm just going to have more stuff with you. I'm just going to beat you. Whereas life is much more organic. Life is much more about just feeling out the play and knowing, you know, hitting that kill switch or just knowing when to do certain things. And he wins a lot of scrappy games as well. But he made Innovation look like a chump. Like, Innovation won game one, and then suddenly Life, you know, he turned Super Saiyan. He just went full beast mode, and suddenly, like, I'm going to win these games. And he just made Innovation look really, really sloppy.
And Innovation had come into that series with a lot of hype because he'd kind of dominated the early parts of WCS.
Most definitely.
Yeah. In fact, we spoke to one of the developers last week, and he was like, yep, Innovation's where it's at.
There's a Terran Hope as well.
Yeah. And then
All
I
the
said that I
Terrans.
would, in this episode, put up him saying that versus someone else winning, which we will do now.
There you go.
If there's one player I want to see in a final, I want to see Innovation, and I hope that he can bring that same game to that stadium, because if he does, that crowd is going to go crazy.
Yeah, this is going to go to air after that has happened, so we'll be able to like line up what you say with like how accurate it was.
Right, okay.
Captain Hindsight wins again. There you go.
We were talking before about Rogue versus SOS. Why do you think that series was so exciting?
Well, I think it was kind of a foreshadowing to how exciting the Grand Finals are going to be. It was another PvZ, and Rogue pulled out such a weird strategy on the first map of Bridgehead. It was like a hatchery that he'd built next to the opponent's base, and you know, for anyone who doesn't play StarCraft, you're meant to build your hatcheries in your own base, not your opponent's base.
Yeah.
So he pulled out this
Hyper-aggressive proxy hash.
big time, exactly. He built a proxy hatch. He had 2 spine crawlers for it, but it kind of showed how good SOS was, because like even just rewatching the VODs, I was like, wow, he just knew what was up. As soon as he didn't see a bunch of information, he kept his probe alive to scout everything. He just knew. He just knew all the time, and it showed how good he was.
So is that skill from him having come up against that build 100 times in practice matches and knowing on this map this is a thing someone can do? Or is it from him just seeing the clues, or searching for the clues, I should say, and then reacting in game?
It's a bit of both. Yeah. So it was quite popular, especially on Korean ladder, when the map first dropped. Everyone was like, hey, what's this? And a lot of Protoss players had a lot of trouble against it, but then they learned, hey, it's actually not that difficult to hold. You can just do it in a number of ways. But the other thing is, I think SOS is more like, he understands the game. And he's like, if you've got a spawning pool and a hatchery and you don't have another hatchery, you have too much money and it should be somewhere else. You're not Bronze League, you're not floating, like 1,000 minerals at 2 minutes into the game. You have done something with those minerals. What have you done? Well, it's kind of like a step-by-step methodical process. If A, then, if not A, then B. If B, then C. So he's like, well, you've probably got a proxy hatch somewhere. I'm going to prepare for it.
This was the final tournament for Heart of the Swarm, and the new StarCraft expansion, Legacy of the Void, drops this week. What are your kind of predictions for how the scene is going to change in terms of esports over the next couple of years?
It's almost like it's down to business now, How are we going to grow this scene for it, and how are we going to support it? And it seems like there's a lot more resources going into this multiplayer and competitive esports, a reworking of the WCS so that there's more stuff for for example, ANZ have got a much better prize pool and scene now. So that was the stuff that
And
I was
local servers.
and local casters. No, but I mean, beforehand there wasn't. You were just piggybacking off, North America or the C region, whereas now it's kind of by giving players from all over the world a chance to kind of prove themselves within their regions. It means that there's better growth for the for Legacy, the Void, and for StarCraft II moving forward as well. So I think by concentrating on these local environments with the final installment, that's where you're going to get this kind of continuity without having to look forward to being like, oh, there's something better coming. This is the thing that is better now.
Do you think that we're going to find ourselves in a perfectly balanced game? And if that's going to take years, or do you think, having played the beta, do you think it's kind of already here? It's not, obviously.
No. But these things always take time. Now that this is the final installment, I think it'll get to a stage where it is more balanced, but then you've still got to have fresh maps because you don't want the game to go stale, and maps can change the balance completely. Like in Wings of Liberty, you had the closest sporting maps ever. Oh man.
Which is why, sort of, for like 6 months, every Terran was just doing sort of a 2 racks kind of opening.
That's why 4 Gates. That's why 4 Gates was so good. There was, I can't remember the name of it. Was it? There was Lost Temple, but before that was Burning Steeps.
Yeah. And it's just
like, I close my eyes and I have these flashbacks and nightmares of that, man. It's just such close rush distance. But like that is the difference, There's a lot more time now to move forward, and Brood War was out for so much longer, and then, over years it became much more refined. Towards the end, everyone was like, oh wow, it's always been this way, but it wasn't.
Well, Infurneaux, thank you so much for taking time to chat to us today, and I'll see you on the ladder now.
Okay. Thanks so much for having me, but I don't think I'll be in Bronze League, so.
Whatever. If you're interested in StarCraft, and I know you are, I'm going to be reviewing Legacy of the Void in an upcoming episode of Good Game on the Big Show. So keep an eye out for that. That's all for this week. Hingers out. See ya!